The year is 1467. Imagine you're looking out at the stormy waters of the Adriatic Sea from an Italian coastal town, and to your astonishment, you see two men walking on water following an image of the Blessed Virgin Mary and her son, Jesus. That image is now known as Our Lady of Good Counsel of Genazzano and can be seen to this day suspended in mid-air without any supports. I want to relate the history of this miraculous image, which involves a great warrior, two faithful soldiers, and a widow of inspiring faith. Having just lost a loved one myself, I can't tell you how much of a consolation this story was to me. Those who love Our Lady will find solace in hearing it, and unbelievers will have evidence of her intercession. I'll tell it as it was set forth in Monsignor George Dillon's book, The Virgin Mother of Good Counsel. The Catholic Men's Podcast, helping you find good works of literature for the Catholic gentleman. How's it going? Wish I was fishing.
Well, I was here the other day and I wasn't saying that. You guys were pulling them out like there's no tomorrow.
The image first appears in history in Shkodër, Albania, which was evangelized by Saints Paul and Andrew. The Italians referred to this city in their accounts as Scutari, which is why she was known as the image of Scutari for some time. It is believed that around the year 1300, the image came down from the heavens. For 2 centuries, Albania enjoyed relative peace, but this all changed when the Turks began their attacks on Europe in the 15th century. That's where Skanderbeg the warrior comes in, also known as George Castrioti. Now, his origin story is the only part that's hotly debated by historians, but the fact that he existed and was an incredible fighting force against the Turks is absolutely irrefutable. But anyway, the story goes that in 1423, the Turks attacked and subjected Albania. The Sultan took the 4 sons of the Albanian prince John Castrioti as hostages. George, the youngest, was only 9 years old. It is said that his 3 brothers were poisoned, but George was young, and Sultan Amurath II of the Ottoman Empire educated the young prince. They gave him the name Alexander the Prince, or Iskender Bey in Turkish, and thus he became known as Skanderbeg. He was brilliant and devastating in battle, defeating many of the Sultan's Muslim enemies, but he wasn't sent to fight against the Christians until 1443, when the Sultan, deciding to invade Hungary, placed Skanderbeg at the head of his army as the High General. He was to face the great Hungarian Catholic general János Hunyadi. Skanderbeg hated the yoke of the Ottomans and decided that the providential moment had come for him and all 300 Catholic Albanians following him to break free. When the 2 armies clashed for the first time, Skanderbeg and his followers, taking advantage of the confusion, crossed over to the side of the followers of the Cross of Christ. With this glorious reinforcement, the Hungarians easily won the battle. Among the captives that day was Sultan Amurath's Secretary of State. Skanderbeg forced him to write and sign a document ordering in the Sultan's name that the Turkish governor of Albania hand over the government to the person presenting the document. He rushed off to Albania with these papers and reconquered all of Albania, and after 2 decades of silence, church bells rang once again. Catholic Albania was freed from the Turks' yoke through the protection of the Virgin of Scutari, and it was well known that Skanderbeg had a tender devotion to Our Lady. As far as Skanderbeg's origin story is concerned, there are some historians who disagree and say that he was never captured by the Turks at the age of 9 and so couldn't change sides in the middle of battle. But whether that was true or not, I'm pretty indifferent on the matter because it doesn't diminish his glory either way. The main point is, divine providence raised up a hero named Skanderbeg to prevent the Mohammedan hordes from taking over, and while he lived, performing heroic and glorious feats, Albania resisted. That much is undeniable. From 1443 until 1467, Skanderbeg was the shield of Christendom, fighting 8 major wars against the Ottomans and winning them all. Even on his deathbed, when he heard that the Turks were attacking, he rose from his bed, put on his armor, and defeated the Turks one last time. Then he returned, laid down on his bed, and died tranquilly. With Skanderbeg's death, Albania almost immediately crumbled, a fitting punishment for a population steeped in mediocrity. The Turkish army, finally free from this ferocious line of war, poured into Albania, occupying all its fortresses, cities, and provinces, with the exception of Scutari in the north, where the miraculous image was located. This city's capacity to resist was limited. With its fall, Christian Albania would be defeated. Faced with this prospect, all those who wished to practice their faith began to leave. Two soldiers named Giorgio and Desclavis also considered fleeing, but something kept them in Scutari. It was the small church where the faithful venerated the picture of Our Lady that Skanderbeg himself had visited more than once to ardently ask for victory in battle. Now the shrine was threatened with imminent destruction and profanation. The two Albanians were torn by the idea of leaving the great treasure of Albania in the hands of the Turks. In their anguish, they went to the old church to ask their Blessed Mother for the good counsel they needed. That night, she appeared to both of them in their sleep and told them to prepare to leave their country, which they would never see again. She added that the miraculous fresco was also going to leave Scutari for another country to escape the hands of the Turks. Finally, she ordered them to follow the painting wherever it went. The next morning, the two friends went to the shrine where they saw the picture detach itself from the wall. Leaving its niche, it hovered for a moment and was then suddenly wrapped in a white cloud through which the image continued to be visible. The pilgrim painting left the church and Scutari. It traveled through the air in the direction of the Adriatic Sea at a speed that allowed the two walkers to follow. After covering 24 miles, they reached the coast. Without stopping, the picture left the land and advanced over the waters, while the faithful Giorgio and Desclavis continued to follow, walking on the water much like our Lord himself had done. When night fell, the mysterious cloud which had protected them with its shade from the sun during the day guided them by night with light, like the column of fire in the desert that guided the Jews in their exodus from Egypt. They traveled day and night until they reached the Italian coast. There, they continued following this miraculous picture, climbing mountains, fording rivers, and passing through valleys. Finally, they reached the vast plain of Lazio, from where they could see the towers and domes of Rome. Upon reaching the gates of the city, the cloud and picture suddenly disappeared. Giorgio and Desclavis began to search the eternal city, going from church to church, but all their attempts to find the painting failed for the time being. Now, a few miles from the city of Rome lies a small town called Genazzano, which is where we'll pick up the other half of the story. In the 3rd century, a shrine dedicated to the Mother of God under the invocation of Mother of Good Counsel was built on the ruins of the pagan Roman temples. Over time, this shrine fell into disrepair, and the Augustinian fathers were charged with the task of the urgent restoration of the ancient church, but they ran into financial problems. However, a third-order Augustinian, Signora Petruccia de Nocera, felt inspired by Our Lady to carry out the restoration. Petruccia had been left a modest fortune following the death of her husband. After obtaining permission from the friars, she donated her goods to start the project in the hope that others would help finish it. Plans were drawn up for a magnificent church. Petruccia, who at that point was 80 years old, found that her generous offering was scarcely enough to finish the first phase of the new construction. To her dismay, the building had hardly risen 3 feet when construction came to a halt due to a lack of funds. Her friends and neighbors began to ridicule her and accused her of imprudence, even going so far as to reprimand her in public. But she would tell them, "Don't put too much importance on this apparent misfortune. I assure you that before my death, the Blessed Virgin and our Holy Father Augustine will finish the church begun by me." On the feast day of the city's patron saint, Mark, April 25, 1467, a solemn celebration began with Mass. Crowds began to gather in front of the Church of Our Lady of Good Counsel. At about 4 in the afternoon, everyone heard beautiful melodies that seemed to come from heaven. The people looked up toward the towers of the churches and saw a white cloud that shone with 1,000 luminous rays. It gradually neared the crowd and descended on the church, directly onto the wall of an unfinished chapel that Petruccia had started. Suddenly, the bells of the old tower began to ring of their own accord, and all the other bells of the town miraculously rang in unison. The cloud itself gradually vanished, revealing a beautiful object, the painting that represented Our Lady holding her divine Son in her arms. From that time forward, the Virgin Mary began to cure the sick, grant countless consolations, and perform many miracles in the town of Genazzano. News of these miracles spread throughout the land, attracting multitudes. Numerous donations followed, which allowed Petruchia to finish her plans for the great church. Finally, news reached Rome, and the two Albanians, Giorgio and Desclavis, entered the city and confirmed the fact that the image was from their land and told the story of how it came to them. And so the image remains today, miraculous for three reasons. 1. The time-tested permanence of the fresco with the durability of its colors after hundreds of years. 2. Since its arrival in 1467, the image has remained suspended in mid-air without any supports. There is no nail. 3. Her countenance changes. Many artists have tried unsuccessfully to reproduce the image, but couldn't because the colors change, especially in the face of Our Lady and the infant Jesus. This incredible story shows that we all need counsel. Unfortunately, many people are taught to be individualists and say, I don't need anyone, I'm self-sufficient. But as much as we like to think we can handle life on our own, we all need counsel. It's part of human nature. All humans err, make mistakes in judgments, and face complications. Sometimes we're simply incapable of finding a solution. We need to admit we're weak. We need help. We need advice. And there's nothing humiliating about that at all. Asking for advice from the Mother of God is strength, not weakness. We all pass through hard times, personal tragedies, spiritual trials, national problems, and crises within the church that seriously impact us. So be like the soldiers and the widow Petruchia. Ask for counsel, even if it appears impossible. Jesus and His Blessed Mother stand close by, eager to advise us if we would only ask them for help. Their specialty is perturbed souls, souls in a state of emergency, souls disoriented and unsure of where to go, and souls who need a way out. Ask and you'll receive a solution. You won't be disappointed. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you'd like to hear more stories like this one, just click on the link above me here. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you. Our Lady of Good Counsel, pray for us.